What inspires the filmmakers of today? Well, that's arguably an easy question. It was the filmmakers of yesterday. Spielberg's, Kubrick's, Scorsese, Hitchcock, Wells, Lee, Coppola, Eastwood, Lynch, De Palma, and countless more. But what about today? What about the young independent filmmakers of our time? The men and women that led the creative uprising in an ever-changing industry. The studio pictures tend to be these manufactured, paint-by-numbers productions. It's a blockbuster movie, which is good for the industry. It keeps the industry going, as it's providing us these tentpole pictures for the year's big releases. It gives us something to be excited about going into the theaters for, but they often fall short, and not because they aren't good, but they're not thought-provoking or innovative in a way that the indie sector does so well and produces time and time again. So often, in our recent cinematic history, we've seen indie film directors release their sleeper hits that turn them into the studio directors of tomorrow. If you look back at Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs or Spielberg's Jaws or Scorsese's Taxi Driver, you see it. In fact, you feel it.
You talking to me?
The filmmakers create a whole world around his characters. They made it consistent, and they made it entertaining, and they made you feel something.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
So where are the next generation of those filmmakers? And in this fast evolving world of filmmaking, what are their challenges of today? How do they see the industry? And how do they see where it's headed?
When I was a kid, my dad was a projectionist, and I spent a lot of time at his work watching a lot of movies in the 80s and 90s. Back to the Future, Goonies.
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
Ghostbusters, all the great classics that you saw growing up. It just was a magical experience, and I remember as a child always wanting to grow up and be able to do that myself.
I'd forgotten how much I hate space travel.
So, as a kid, you see Star Wars, you see these big films. I know that inspired the crud out of me, but really, figuring out how to make an independent film is a whole different animal.
Probably when I was really young, I saw two films, which were the films that inspired me. One was Jaws.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Which I thought was just a great thriller, a horror. And John Carpenter's Halloween, which basically was a very small independent film.
Tommy, please! Tommy, hurry up!
And probably today could be made for under $100,000.
Well, of course, I've been inspired by the directors that I've had contact with and that I've worked with over the years, such as Steven Spielberg, Danny Boyle.
For me, I mean, you've got the big inspirations, from directors like Spielberg and Hitchcock. They're my biggest inspirations for film.
In terms of actually picking up a camera, it was going to see Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels in 1998 with some friends.
It seemed Hatchet underestimated you lot. And it seems to have cost him. But I ain't gonna make the same mistake now, am I?
And it electrified us. I thought, I want to do that. And it really kind of put a rocket up me and my friends and made me want to become a filmmaker. The next day we went out, got a camera and just started filming things.
God knows how much of this stinking weed. A shitload of cash. And a traffic warden.
What? Jesus, have we got a traffic warden?
I'm a movie fan, so being inspired to make movies is kind of like, I think for us British producers, it came along with Guy Ritchie and Matthew Vaughn and those guys that managed to make big movies out of sort of small stories, I guess it was.
You trying to scare the shit out of me? I mean, I fucking hate guns. Although that one is really pretty, isn't it? Is that Second World War?
Hey! Pointed upwards, sir.
when you see people making very engaging films about the environment that's all around you, I think that sort of inspires you to pick up a camera and try to make something.
You don't have to go to traditional sources of funding, film funding, to get something off the ground. You can pretty much ask anyone.
There's nothing more inspiring than seeing people make films with just around you that you meet every day, and just seeing what they did with just the resources that they have, and can't help but be inspired by it.
You wanna fuck with me? You're acting like a first-year fucking thief. I'm acting like a professional.
Tarantino or Robert Rodriguez, I think, is the most inspiring.
There's so many people that tell you you can't do it and you shouldn't do it and all these things. It's finding those ones that can keep you pushing you when you kind of think and start to doubt yourself, thinking, is this really what I should be doing? It's those people that are the ones that really keep you going.
What inspired me is that nobody wanted me near the set, to be honest. I started like everybody else as an assistant and PA and stuff like that, but like nobody trusted me. Look at me. I am a black woman with no formal education in filmmaking. I learned everything by myself. I have no connection, no network, no nothing. I'm not even from this country. I'm from France. So there were so many things that were against me. So I was like, against all the odds, what else do I have to do? That inspired me to start doing my own stuff, because nobody wanted me on the set. Nobody wanted me to learn with them. So I was like, okay, then I'm gonna learn by myself, I guess. At some point, you have to take the control of your destiny. And that's the thing that changed everything for me. Yeah, I would say that.
So these are the filmmakers on the front line of the indie circuit right now. And there's a younger, sharper generation just behind them, growing up into what will surely be a streaming generation. But in a time where technology is shifting almost as fast as the distribution model for indie films, what advice do they have for the newest generation of filmmakers?
I think where people often fall at the first hurdle is not recognizing and working with the limitations that they have available to them. Too often the scripts by first-time filmmakers are a bit too ambitious for the resources that they have. If you've never made a film, or if you've only made a couple of shorts, it's very unlikely that someone is going to fund your £3 million war epic. So I think it's important to look at what you have access to in terms of actors, locations, funding, equipment, and cut your cloth accordingly. Really make your story and characters key, and the rest will follow. I'm Paul Tanter. I'm a writer, director and producer working in independent film and television. I started as a writer on the Jack franchise with the films Jack Says and Jack Said. After that, I had my biggest commercial success to date with the 2012 film The Rise and Fall of a White Collar Hooligan, that was the biggest selling DVD independent release of that year. That film spawned 2 sequels and kick-started what critics called the hooligangster genre. More recently, I've moved into serialized television.
What scares you?
Everything.
Which is set in a near American future in which vampires and humans coexist in an America that's been walled in by the rest of the world, and both sides are plotting to bring down the other.
That's the challenge of the indie filmmaker, is to try and make something really high quality, but with very minimal resources, or understanding that you're not going to have the same resources as the movie that you've just been watching made by a studio.
The only advice I would give an aspiring filmmaker is do it. Don't think about the gear, don't think about the money, don't think about who's gonna watch it. Just do it. You have to start somewhere, you have to go ahead, you have to just do it.
Tenacity and persistence. Whatever you do, don't give up. When I started working in film, I was also working a full-time job, and I was lucky if we were making 1 film a year. As time went on, we kind of hit a bit of a groove and we started making more. If you're a writer and you're working a full-time job at the moment and you only have 1 hour in the evenings free, write for that 1 hour in the evenings. If you're a filmmaker and you're working Monday to Friday in a full-time job and you've got the weekends free, shoot your short film at the weekends. In fact, fuck it, shoot a feature over a dozen weekends. Whatever you do, just keep persevering.
You have to kind of judge about where you are in the industry. If you're very brand new, chances are you're going to have to find some yourself or some friends and family that are going to be able to put your money together to put a project together. It's usually known as a credit card film, and then do that for your first project or two, and then use that as your calling card.
If you want to make a feature film independently, then you have to really know why you want to make it. I think for a lot of people, it's a stepping stone, it's a calling card, it's a way to break into the mainstream industry.
I have to go now.
As a director, and to not be an independent filmmaker anymore, and to try and work within the mainstream media industry. That's certainly how I undertook it.
Action! Chew one! Get back! Chew two!
I think the secret to making independent films successful is obviously recouping the budget. So if you spend $1 million making a movie, it's got to sell for over $1 million.
Most filmmakers come up with this great idea and they just think that everybody's gonna love it because it's their idea. How could they not? Well, in all reality, we have to start approaching filmmaking as if we're entrepreneurs, as if we're business owners, as if we're making a product that someone has to want to buy.
Filmmakers that make films for their friends and family, that's fine, but you have to make something that the distributor wants to watch, not people. You don't often have to think about the customer, you have to think about your customer, which is the distributor. What is it they want? And you can get the answers to that by usually just engaging with them and saying, hey, if I was making a movie right now and I was trying to sell it to you in 9 months' time when it's finished, what kind of movie would you like?
There's a great snobbery around genre films for some reason, but there's a reason so many of them are made, and that's because they sell. A lot of my films tended to be reverse engineered from discussions with distributors and sales agents about what they were looking for, what the market wanted.
And also too, making an independent film is incredibly labor intensive and very hard to do.
What's that, G?
You have to do something that you're really interested in and passionate about, and really the goal should be try to align those two things, something that the market wants and something that you truly want to make.
And you bring it to the distributors, to the sales agents, and say, hey, is this something you think you can sell? And if it's not, don't make it. If it is, well, now you're in a whole nother interesting place, right? What do you do next?
Remember that filmmaking is a collaborative effort. It's not something that you can do solo. You're going to need all of the different talents and all of the different collaborators to put that film together.
You know, if you believe in a script and in a project, then, you know, make sure you've got the best team around you who are going to support you as a director.
Then he comes over to Jamie as well.
Oh yeah.
And you know, what are we talking about? We're talking about basically unpaid work, deferred fees. And why the hell would anyone do that? Well, they might do it, A, if they believe in your project, and B, you know, they're hungry, they want credits, they want to move their own career on. So it could be, you know, an actor producer who's got a big fat juicy role in the film.
Quite often, if you do persuade a cameraman or a director of photography or a makeup artist to believe in your film and to come on board and help you with that process, they will know other people and they will know experience that comes from within the industry. You know, what you find is the most experienced people, most experienced crews, and certainly in my experience, the people that have worked the longest and have worked on most projects, they're the ones that have the key to how you can achieve those things. I've made 4 Lifetime TV movies, which have gone very well. and I directed my first episode of The Flash, which came out in November.
And I'm the only one fast enough to save it. I am The Flash.
They want me to come back to
you can actually raise. Over the past 4 years, we've worked on a lot of films, one of them being Slasher.com, which had a major rollout. So we switched over to Lost Treasure of Jesse James.
This is a great adventure.
Following in that vein, we moved on to Shakespeare's Mummy, which also, again, was one of those family-friendly, fun adventures.
And you need to plan and then plan and then plan again, because during the process of making any movie, there's going to be hurdles, and if you haven't planned your project meticulously, almost like a military exercise, you might come up against some hurdles that you just don't know how to jump over. And once you start to lose time, then you start to lose everything, let's say.
So the biggest advice I can give is just being able to adapt and expect change and expect problems. Putting out fires and sorting out the problems is one of the most fun parts of what we do, and in independent film we really have to do that. And then after that, really everything comes down to finance. You've got to package it as best you can, get cast and crew the best you can with the money that you've got available.
So yeah, I think the script and knowing and understanding what resources you have that sort of lead into the script. There's no point in setting something in a palace that you think you might have access to if the whole script takes place there, and then you find that you can't get that palace that you wanted, and then you can't really make the film.
In my opinion, most first-time producers or sort of young producers, when they're making their first projects, they sort of spend the budget badly, or they apportion it badly. So they think they absolutely have to have one key thing, but then they'll spend so much money that the rest of the film kind of gets anchored down with it. So they don't allow enough money for post-production, and they don't allow enough money for the sort of creative process that happens in post. I mean, a lot of movies are made in post-production, like really do come to life. But if you haven't got the budget to support that because you spent it all in the shoot, then inevitably you'll fall down a little bit. I've made a few films. I've made about 15 films. But actually we've gone more into TV stuff now, so independent TV production.
I didn't have a choice, Jerry. Oh, Max, they'll all be killed!
For Christ's sake, these are your people!
I did what I had to do!
He's talking about Max! You didn't have to do anything! You could have talked to me! I was your friend, I would have helped you!
Jerry, it'll all be over soon, okay? You don't have to worry, it'll all be over soon.
So the idea is key, but what we're also hearing is that the budget is key too. It doesn't have to be massive or in the mega millions, but it does have to be able to realize your vision and execute it well. So how do you raise a budget?
How can you raise finance for your own independent film? The $1 million question.
Have a rich friend. That's probably the best way to do it.
Funding is a more complicated topic. There are so many possible ways to approach it, and it's really a puzzle, a mystery to so many filmmakers and so many producers. Most filmmakers come to this process as an artist, not as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as a product salesperson. But if you can show an investor how they're going to get their money back and how you've set that up for them, that's the magic piece that they need to be willing to invest their money in your project, in your dream.
There's only two ways to raise finance for making films, as far as I'm aware, which is either you get a distributor or a sales agent to advance you money. They put down a contract saying, Simon, we love this movie. If you bring this movie to us in 9 months' time, we will give you $1 million.
And they will pay you an MG, a minimum guarantee, up front based on what they think it's worth. Now, unfortunately, if you pre-sell a film, often you'll get less from the distributor than you would have done down the line if you'd sold it when the film was completed. But the payoff here is that you're getting money off them up front, so they're kind of committed to it at that point. You could sell it down the line to them and might get more money, but in order to do that, you need to raise the money elsewhere to actually make it. So there's kind of a trade-off there.
Or you get private investment.
And then there's using charm. And by using charm and getting yourself out there, you can potentially pick up some private investment or a group of investors that will believe in you and your project and help you to finance yourself.
You get a bunch of private equity investors together, and you get everybody to give you £50,000 or whatever, and they piecemeal together the budget until a level that you're happy at. And both of those things do work, and both of those things do happen.
And you always need to give them a perk or something, some sort of percentage on the end, because they're not going to just put money in for nothing, So it's about getting yourself out there and finding those people and finding the right people for you that you can have a relationship with as well, and maybe continue on other journeys. So if you do a film and it makes them some money back, then they're more inclined to give you some more money for the next one. That's how it works.
The kicking of the car is great, but maybe just a bit more playful.
Oh, it looks sick though.
It does look
really
good,
cool.
but
less like a fucking.
maybe laugh about it. Shit the car, fuck car.
Yeah.
I've done 3 short films. One which was nominated for a BIFA award in 2019, and off the back of that, I did my first feature called Villain, which is on DVD right now. It's on all digital platforms as well. It was in cinemas for a little while. We've just managed to squeeze in my second feature called Boiling Point, which is based on the short.
Find people that believe in your work. If you have a previous short film that you can show people and go, hey, this is what I can do. Imagine if we had a bit more money and we made a feature film, then you have a better chance of finding investors. But without a doubt, that's the trickiest part of making film, is finding the financing.
There's 2 different worlds. Either you have no money to make something, or you have all the money in the world. And in order to get all the money in the world, you have to be part of the big studio system. And you can't get there unless you can make something from nothing first.
Well, you've got to prove yourself. I mean, it's a track record.
I've done a crowdfunding campaign, and that was successful. We raised our target goals, raised the budget for the first part of the shoot.
Here, there's Slate.com, which I think is an excellent resource for indie filmmakers, and it sort of cross-pollinates with mainstream as well. So that's something that you should definitely check out.
So we've got this authentic approach with young local actors. We're also mixing them up with names that mean something to distribution companies, sales companies, and that's the strategy we're now using to finish financing.
A lot of us, like most of my circle of filmmakers, we pull money from our own lives, from our own businesses, to invest into making films.
Also, get yourself some connection, network, call people, and make yourself seen in the game. Make people remember your name, your first and last.
I strongly and deeply believe that this groundbreaking procedure is going to cure each and every one of you.
I worked on everything. I mean, I did short films, I did documentaries, I did a little bit of television, more web content.
So it's understood by the vast majority that making a film and selling a film are two incredibly different skill sets, and most of the time seem completely unconnected. But of course, the key to a filmmaker's success is to have both. So how do they sell the movies they make?
Let's assume that you've made it and you're now looking to sell it. What you want to do is go to where all the distributors are, and that's at the markets. AFM, Cannes, Berlin, they're all there at these places looking to buy films. So you, as a filmmaker, want to go there to try and sell to them.
Festivals are a really good way to do it. It's a great way to be able to make contacts in the industry, because the big thing is how do you get in front of being able to see the people that will actually buy your movie, your TV show. And I find the best way to be able to make those contacts is to go to festivals.
Apply to as many film festivals as you can around the world. You may only get a 2 or 3 or 4% or a 5% hit rate, but getting your film into festivals helps with sales as well.
Basically, if you've got a film that's a festival winner, then it's going to be a whole lot easier once you go to those broadcasters, cinema chains, wherever it is you're trying to sell the film to. If you've got like a critical festival winner on your hands, it's going to make everything easier.
You know, it's about you picking up the camera, going out there, making something that someone's going to look and go, oh, this is original, this is good. Who is it that's making these films? And that's how you get people interested, you get a distributor interested. If you then can follow through on what a distributor needs and for mainstream distribution, they will continue to come back to you.
Jack, you just roll it, roll us on this way. Just film with us.
The last sort of 5-10 years, I've probably done or been involved in between 20 and 25 movies at different various stages, going from being executive producer to writing to full-on producing and directing.
Your other option is sales agents, and if you get a good sales agent, that's great, they charge a commission, but if you've got a good one, it's worth it because they can sell internationally for you. Sales agents tend to have the contacts already, so it's good to use that. However, there are a lot of shit sales agents out there. A lot of them will take films from first-time filmmakers to pad out their catalogues, and 90% of them sit there unsold. So what you don't want to do is deal with one of those, because then you've tied your film to them and it doesn't get sold in any region.
I will say this, be very careful, because what I've found, and most of my independent filmmakers friends have found, is that the industry is pretty much geared to tell you that your expensive project that you just made is really not worth anything, and that you should just hand it over to this distributor and they're going to try and get it out to the world for you for exposure. Okay, and that's most of the stories I hear from independent filmmakers are that horrible tale right there.
Getting a film sold is not an afterthought for me. It's a kind of a forethought. So before I start making anything, I often think about where I'm going to take my finished film to, and so much so that I usually try and start the conversation of selling a completed film right before we've shot. I'll go to someone, I'll pitch the idea, I'll show them the script, I'll tell them who the director is, I'll do mood boards, concept art, anything that sort of puts a picture in the distributor's head. I'll do that to pitch them the idea, and I'll see how actively they engage with it. Again, it's just supply and demand, so I'm always keen to see what they react to, and if they sort of, nod their head but sort of look like they're disengaging, then I won't follow it up. You know when someone's interested in what you're selling because they sort of ask more questions and they make suggestions, or there's something, they are actually interested.
Now, Today, in our society, a beautiful tool has opened up for filmmakers. We have the ability to make a film, put it on the internet, and sell it through places like Greenlit Go, through streaming platforms like Vimeo, through platforms like Amazon. And those tools, they're seeking product that they can sell. So in most cases, independent filmmakers can reach out to them directly and sell their product directly right there on the streaming platform. So at this point, you can come up with a concept, you can fund it, and you can sell it yourself.
The world is a different place now to even just 20 years ago because of the availability of cameras, digital cameras everywhere on every device, able to survive any environment or weather conditions. Drones, GoPros, macro lenses, smartphones, laptops, all consumer technology capable of delivering incredible images and footage. So should we be thinking about how much a younger generation could handle this visual storytelling medium?
Should filmmaking be incorporated into general education? Hell yeah. Because guess what? What is screenwriting? What is English literature, isn't it? What is performance, rehearsal, English language? What is storyboards, art, technical drawing? What's a budget? Maths. What is getting your film out there? You know, convincing people, making a pitch. Business studies, I guess. Real business studies. At the moment, I'm working on a really exciting film called Road Girl.
Should've known then that she worshipped pussy too.
Cheyenne, you're a soldier, and don't let no one tell you different.
I'm number one!
It's such a huge industry that we export to the rest of the world, and that actually represents the UK, that it's a hugely important one. We want the next generation to be writers and artists. Let's let them be filmmakers as well.
Also, it would give a much wider access to children from all walks of life to be able to come into the industry and put their messages out there. And I do believe that individually they would be able to create a much wider scope of stories that people would enjoy watching.
We have to demystify the whole industry, the whole thing that's going on, that's kind of okay, if you want to get there, you have to know this and this. No. People are creative, people are talented, but they are not exposed to that industry early enough to believe that they even have a chance. That's a pity, because we might be missing on the next generation of the great filmmakers. So yeah, we should include some filmmaking classes in the curriculums.
The world of learning how to make film and video content is not just limited to making movies. I mean, in this world that we live in now, everyone's making video content in their social media platforms, but a lot of businesses make video content to promote their brands. So that if you're getting into advertising or marketing, it doesn't even necessarily have to be in the movie or TV world. That skill set could be applied to so many different industries.
All right, and 3, 2, 1, action.
Back when I was in school, filmmaking was difficult because you had to have access to like the cameras and the sound gear and all, and the lights and stuff like that in order to learn the theory of how to make a movie. But nowadays we walk around with these 4K cameras on our phones.
Today's society, everybody has a camera. They have them on their phones. We should be encouraged in every aspect of entertainment to create stuff.
A kid with a laptop can win a BAFTA now. So because we threw that technology at a younger generation, maybe now we should change our way of thinking, well, actually, if these kids want to learn how to filmmake, how to tell stories visually, maybe we should teach them a bit earlier, because actually the technology has become so much more accessible to that generation that it isn't quite the uphill struggle it used to be 10, 20 years ago.
It's a huge market. The film industry is absolutely massive. It brings in a huge amount to the global economy. However, the problem is the more you market it to youngsters, the more are inevitably going to want to get into it. And the film industry is finite, it's only so big. So there is a limit as to how many people can get into it. So the more we promote it, the more we're going to want in, and the more people are going to be disappointed. It's already a very crowded industry.
And what's really interesting about the film industry, as I've gotten in this more and more, is how many different roles there are and how many different craftspeople that are out there that you can work in. There's literally hundreds of different jobs you can do on a film, and I think most kids aren't really aware of those. They look at kind of the more bigger glamorous jobs, but there's a really excellent, it's actually a very safe industry to get into for just a day job if you're a crew person. It's almost a $3 billion industry here in Toronto. And so there's lots of potential work for people, but they just have to know what the jobs are and be able to train themselves accordingly. So I think that's one area where education could really help with. A couple of the film projects that I have done is a short film I wrote and produced called One More for the Road that got worldwide distribution. And then that led to a feature film called Late Night Double Feature that I was the lead producer and writer on, that was done with multiple directors. That was made a couple of years later, and that was also independently produced. Welcome. And we were able to sell it to Hulu in the States, and it's on iTunes and Google Play, and we even had a couple of DVD releases.
What would be good is if you studied something that gave you a take on what's going on in the world, whether it's politics or history or languages or sociology or psychology or whatever, philosophy, anything that actually gives you a take on your storyline and gives you a voice, gives you something about your voice, and so that you're not just learning how to operate the buttons, you're actually learning how to tell a story, and the story that matters to you and why it matters to you, because that's the passion that people pick up on when they watch your movie.
Because competition is so fierce and technology has made filmmaking so possible for the masses, it's become harder to stand out from the crowd. But if that's the case, is it still easy enough for professional indie filmmakers to make a living and pay the rent?
How can you survive as an independent filmmaker in this capitalist system? Well, basically, unbreakable determination.
The risks of being an independent filmmaker are huge. You know, you don't always know where your next paycheck's going to come from. You're on a job-by-job basis. And really it's that knowledge and belief that you're going to get that next project, that you've got the talent and ability to keep getting that work.
The toughest thing really is you don't know where your next job is coming from, you know, so you have to be able to, you know, go with the highs and lows of being hired or not hired, or, you know, surviving basically. And if you have a family, then it's really, really difficult because, you know, you have to make ends meet, and you know, it's been a massive challenge.
I think more than anything, as an independent filmmaker, you have to be adaptable these days, and really you have to move with the market. You know, we're facing ever decreasing budgets at the moment, and also as the market's opened up, more competition than ever from other filmmakers. But at the same time, it's a really exciting time to be a filmmaker and be a creative. There's so many more platforms than ever before to showcase your work. So just keep persevering and don't give up.
You have to give up your soul, is the first thing that you have to do. It's really hard. I mean, look, if you want to make movies to get rich and famous, like I would suggest don't do it at all, because it's likely not going to happen, and you're going to be incredibly disappointed. I started out in the business producing my first TV show back in 2012. It was called The Next Biggest Winner. My first documentary was released in December of 2019.
In layman's terms, we've just pissed everybody off, and they're still pissed.
And my first feature film will be coming out later this year.
Stop! Hey, stop! Listen, stop! I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna hurt you. I will let you go, I promise. But I need you to make a promise to me too, okay? Listen, I'll take my hand away, but no screaming, no shouting, no noise.
You know, we as filmmakers, we're all in the same boat, man. It is a tough industry to survive in, to make a living in. For me, I have found that filmmaking is my passion and it's my expensive hobby. And many of my fellow filmmakers in my circle kind of fall into this same category, where we've actually formulated our life in a way that we can make enough money outside of filmmaking in another industry. Like I have a photography company that employs 30, 40 people at any given time that functions all around the country. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to explore investing into these other projects.
You like Alice? Do you think Alice would do anything for you, Louise? She wouldn't.
Surviving as an independent filmmaker is always tough, but it's the same for anybody that's a freelancer in any industry. You have to be disciplined. You have to be strict with yourself. You have to be on a budget. You have to live to your own budget, but I mean, that's exactly like making a film. You have to stick to that budget too. And the risk is that you won't get another movie, or you'll make a movie and it will perform very badly, and then you'll struggle to make your next movie. But that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it worthwhile. That's why I think filmmakers don't do a 9-to-5, because we opt out of that life. We opt out of the security of a salary, but then we have the excitement of not being able to pay rent.
There's no magic answer to that. How I've been doing it for so long surprises even me, because it's one of those things that you don't know what's around the corner, and usually at the point in which you think, oh God, what's going to happen next, that's when something happens. It just seems to be the way it works.
In my experience, surviving as an independent filmmaker has been quite a difficult task. Obviously, we all need to pay bills and we need to pay rents and mortgages and so on, so you always have to be able to work and at the same time balance what it is you're doing with your film projects. So you quite often will be working day and then night and getting very little rest. So that's quite a challenging environment.
Obviously, most people are going to have a day job, so you have to be like a machine and work at night and at the weekends and keep pushing, keep banging that door. I suppose if you want to be sensible about it, you could have a day job within the film industry, so you're keeping your skills sharp, learning more skills, expanding your network of contacts. That would be the sensible way to do it.
Most people that I know that make indie films in Canada usually do commercials, they work on bigger shows, they work on all the big productions that come into Toronto as maybe as a focus puller or different thing like that, and then they make films, feature films or short films on the side.
Rather than go off and do a completely different job to try and raise money to make your movie, because that has a double negative effect of you being outside the industry and also not having enough time to really focus on getting your project up and running.
And many of my friends, you'll find that they'll make money, as a commercial maker, as a professor at the university.
I have the equipment to be able to go shoot a feature film myself without renting anything, and I've done that for my first feature film. And the reason that I have that equipment is that I've funded it through my corporate work that I've done. So a client will ask me to shoot something, and I will take a chunk of that money and invest it into a camera or a tripod or a drone or whatever. And that is a big part of the budget that you need to be able to make a movie, is you need to be able to have all the equipment, and it's very expensive to rent it, or you have to rely on someone else to have it. So a big plus is to be able to accumulate it yourself.
Maybe another way to do it would be to try to lower your living costs, so you've got more time to devote to your art. Move out of London, leave New York. How about that?
How you can survive is just keeping yourself immersed in the whole thing.
The people that work within the industry basically have a huge advantage, and you want to make yourself, put yourself in that position too, if you can.
When you feel like you are near wanting to quit, it means that you have to keep going. You have to. I feel like I've been through this 1,000 times. I want to quit every week, but when I have, I get small victories and I celebrate them, it just makes me, it gets me back into it.
Predicting the future isn't easy. All you need to be a billionaire is a copy of tomorrow's newspaper. Even with all our technology, we can't even confidently predict tomorrow's weather yet. But these guys have the fingers on the pulse of the indie industry. So guys and girls, where is it heading?
So it seems to me that the trend at the moment really for independent film is that everything's moving towards online. It's all about downloads and streaming and video on demand. DVD is kind of dying a death, really.
The bigger sort of social media footprint you have, probably that's going to mean more to the success of your distribution. Independent filmmakers, if they don't have, they need to either build up their own social media, and while they're doing that, probably align themselves to people that have that following. And I think sort of that's like the currency that's going to mean something going forward.
Not only has technology become more available, but the ability to actually take your film and sell it to the masses has become more available now that we have the weapon of streaming. Man, it's game on. We are totally going to be able to go up against the monolith companies like the Disney companies if we can figure out that equation. What do people want to buy? How can we fund it? And then using the tools that we have to get it out there and sell it.
The only major trend at the minute is really this two-tier industry. How long that will last for, I don't know. I think there's only a limited time where big budgets can keep getting bigger before they'll kind of come down to mid-level and low budget. I think mid to low is where the industry is going to be heading with so many streaming options. The cost of content needs to come down. You can't keep having $250, $300 million pictures. If they're going to go straight to streaming, the cost of those is going to need to become more realistic. So I think mid to low level budgets is where the industry is ultimately going to head up.
What I will say is, diversity in film has changed a lot over the last few years, and underrepresented people are now getting a voice, and I think it's incredible, and that is hugely important in UK independent film.
So opening up, the movie industry to more female filmmakers, to more minority groups to come on board. And recently we've seen that trend building, and imagine how exciting the future could be for the UK film industry, because we do have a truly genuine melting pot of people, genders as well, that can get their stories out there and enrich our industry.
That's what independent filmmaking is. The freedom of expression is just something that is so important in this cinema universe. We need independent filmmaker. We need their voice. We need their talent. We need their freedom.
I think in the next 5 to 10 years, DVD will finally die out as a medium. Everything will move to online. It will all be about downloads, streaming, video on demand. The distributors will continue to go belly up. Several have already gone into administration over the last couple of years. I think that trend will continue, and the ones that carry on will probably be consumed by the larger ones. Because of this, MGs will go down for filmmakers, and therefore budgets will also go down. I think this will result in a new market for micro-budget independents made by talented filmmakers who can stretch their budgets. So it will be a good time for creatives, but I don't think anyone's going to get rich.
Any kind of those digital platforms, that's where I see where things are happening now. They've become the new studios. And the way I think major projects or even small projects are going to happen is you're going to get finance from these digital channels.
Distributing your film has been made a lot easier, so I think that we'll get a lot more independent filmmakers in the future that are picking up a digital camera, making a movie, and maybe potentially editing it themselves and even distributing it themselves on some form of online platform.
We're going to get to a stage eventually where there's going to be less big budget studio movies made, but the studios will still exist, but what they will do is I think they will promote up smaller independent films. we've seen a lot of success just this last year gone with A Quiet Place, which was still a studio movie, but still Michael Bay produced movie, but it was a smaller indie sort of movie, and it had an indie treatment to it a little bit. The spectacular Marvel movies and everything, I think, will sort of slowly die out. There's always a place for them and something like that, but we will actually see more, hopefully, independent movies hitting sort of tentpole type environments. Like they'll be the things that get advertised like a Marvel movie.
I knew it. We'll still be able to produce our films in exactly the same way. It just means that we're not tailoring them for a specific small audience. It's actually getting bigger in that we're aiming, for audiences worldwide to be able to see the content, and that's ultimately where I think filmmakers should be aiming.
I see a completely kind of different approach to filmmaking. I see that people, because of things like the virus and the lockdown, people's standards have dropped over the last 20 years. So people will accept something that isn't high spec and high quality and still enjoy it, and people discover a lot of these movies.
In 5-10 years, I see more and more independent filmmakers, people that are fearless. They are relentless. Maybe with the help of new technology and the help of social media and stuff, we're gonna get more and more indie filmmakers that are gonna come through and then, enrich the scene and the whole industry.
So it's hugely important that independent film continues, and I think it will forever. Don't stop making shit,